Jeremy. Welcome to a little companion piece for the start of a new series that I am playing, a multiplayer game, the Slowest Blitz, I think is what we're kind of calling it right now. So this is not going to be a national overview. This isn't going to be a pretender design video, and partially, I'd say partially, the reasons for that are because a lot of shit has changed quite recently. The big Asphodel patch came out, which changed a whole bunch of things, which kind of wrecked the national overview that I had originally done or was in the process of doing, and the pretender design video that I want to do. The game is very much still going, and where we are at the pretender design may be very relevant, so I don't want to put that out yet, but I do want to start releasing the early videos, the early turns of the series, and in order to do that, I think it would be a very good idea to discuss our bless going in, because it's a very important part of what we are doing with this particular nation and strategy. So that's what this video is going to be. Hopefully very concise, sub 10 minutes, just big discussion on what we're doing with our bless, what our kind of like generalized plan is, and where we see ourselves going, but also a couple of like notes on what's changed because of the patches, etc., right? So keep in mind that all of this was designed pre-Asphodel patch, pre-heroism nerf, and yeah, keep that in mind, and that'll be a good guide going into this. Also, if you do continue watching this series, please ignore me saying Asphodel for the first probably 10 turns of the game, and imagine me saying Asphodel instead, because, oops, ignore me. Pronunciation, not my greatest strength. Anyways, let's jump into this bless, right? So, right off the bat, we can see Defense Skill 5, Blur, Blood Surge, Heroism, right? Like, this is not a hard concept to reach, right? Sacreds at the time, prior to the Asphodel patch, were just the Black Centaurs. Black Centaurs are, I believe, basically identical to White Centaurs. They start with 17... We'll take a look at them here in just a second. They start with 17 defense skill. 5 defense is going to immediately put them up to 22 defense skill, which is incredibly difficult for any ND to hit, right? And very difficult for any basic troop to hit, and even elite troops are going to have problems with that, right? Adding Blur into that doesn't exactly count as +2 defense because of the way the calculations work, I believe, but for all intents and purposes, we can say that Blur reduces the attack of the enemy by 2, which roughly equates to the concept of +2 defense, right? So takes our 22 up to 24, and then we have Blood Surge if we kill a unit, right? Obviously, we're going to get increased attack, strength, etc., but we're also going to get +1 defense off of that, which is going to take us up to 25 defense. That's out of the gate, period. End of discussion. The on top aside is that Black Centaurs do not have a lot of armor, right? I think they have 9 out of the gate, or protection, right? So that means that when they do get hit, they will take damage. Fortunately, they're pretty beefy boys, but they also have Berserk 4, right? So Berserking is going to increase their strength and attack skill, but decrease their defense by that value, right? So if we bless and we calculate the defense skill that we're getting, the blur that we're getting, if we get Blood Surge, we're going to pop up to 25. We're going to pop down to 21 if we Berserk, right? That's still incredibly high, still very difficult for any PD, any indie PD, any basic unit to hit, and still relatively challenging for elite units to hit as well, depending on the type of elite. Obviously, harassment penalties, etc., is gonna mess with that, but the basic concept is that we are supercharging our defense skill, and we're just gonna run through indies and hopefully have a big death ball of black centaurs that are going to smash people in the early game, right? With the combination of Blood Surge and Berserking adding to our attack skill and strength so that we can actually hit opposing targets and hurt them, right? The addition of heroism, and keep in mind, so this is 140%. This is showing post-nerfs to heroism. We took 4 points of heroism originally, so this would be 200% when we started the game, and for the first, I don't know, I think like 15, 16 turns, something like that, right? 200% heroism means that you are passively generating 3 experience on every sacred unit across the board, and that you're going to get 200% increased experience from battles, which means that your Black Centaurs specifically are going to shoot up in experience astronomically quickly. This means they're going to gain additional attack skill and defense based off of their experience pips very, very rapidly. They'll also get precision, which kind of matters for their javelins, right? That can be helpful, but it's not as big of a deal. And they'll also eventually, once they get high enough, they'll get things like strength. They'll get things like, I think they get morale and HP, like small bonuses to those things. I don't think they get anything else, but it could be something like magic resistance or something like that. I don't 100% remember. But regardless, though, this is a extremely easy way, pre-nerf, to drastically inflate those attack skill and defense skill numbers as well, making our already difficult to hit Black Centaurs all but impossible for most things to hit unless they get just horrendously harassed down, right? Or you get, exploding die, yada yada. But fortunately, the Black Centaur, unlike a regular unit, have enough health, generally speaking, to survive a exploding die hit into an attack, etc., depending on what it's coming from, obviously, right? So that's the basic combo, right? Defense skill 5, Blur, Blood Surge, Heroism. We get these turbocharged Black Centaur that are going to basically be able to obliterate people because they won't get hits. If they do get hit, they will berserk, so they'll be even more dangerous. If they kill something, they'll get Blood Surge, they'll be even more dangerous there, etc., etc. This is not an especially difficult bless to take, right? It is not incarnate, right? So you don't have to worry about that type of scenario. It is a fair amount of bless points, but it's not as much as a lot of other blesses in this day and age. So it's pretty easy to put together. At this point, because of the heroism nerfs and the adjustments, the Asphodel patch, right? I don't know that I would recommend taking this bless now in the current state of the game. But when we started this game, I felt like it was doing very, very well, and I was very, very happy with it, right? So pretty good all around. And honestly, truth be told, except for like taking Heroism 4, which I probably wouldn't do now because it doesn't get you as much, I would probably still take like 2 Heroism, right? But I would shift points into other things if I were to do this again, basically. But otherwise, I'm very happy with this. It's performing exactly as intended, and that is awesome. So the odd man out in this whole thing is Mending Bones, right? Why did I include Mending Bones in this bless? This is kind of just late game insurance. This does nothing for Asphodel out of the gate. All of their So Mending Bones, if you do not know, basically gives recuperation to undead units, right? It mends their bones. The thing about Asphodel is all of their sacred undead units already have recuperation. So why do we have this? Specifically, we have this as a kind of odd late game insurance policy. It's the idea that we feel strong enough in the early game to not feel like we needed something else. Mending Bones is only, I think, a 3-point bless, so it didn't cost us a lot more to take. And if we make it past early game, I'm pretty sure we'll make it past early game. But if we make it past mid game, which is kind of like the point, and make it into the late game, Mending Bones allows us to spam out Tartarian Titans, and use things like Shrouds of the Battle Saints to remove afflictions from those Titans and use them as a late game stick, basically. I don't know that I would recommend this, right? Like, 3 points is not, it's not an issue for Asphodel to take it, right? But it doesn't, I don't know that it is the late game insurance policy that you necessarily need or want. And while 3 points is not expensive, especially if you're not taking 4 points of heroism anymore, that turns into 5 points, right? Even if you take 2 points of heroism, that's 5 points that you could get elsewhere, or even 1 point, right? Out of heroism, leaving it at heroism 3, which I think is still valuable. You could save 4 points by, or I wouldn't say save 4 points. You could save 4 points and just use them on scales, but I don't think Asphodel necessarily needs it. Possible. You could definitely do some slightly different things than what I did. But the point is you could take something else that is potentially more helpful. Like just straight strength would be pretty good, or straight attack skill. Especially now, though, I think if you were going to do a bless like this for the Black Centaur in the current state of the game, I would skip Mending Bones, drop Heroism down to probably 3, and either invest in something else like Strength for your Black Centaurs, or maybe like magic weapons for late game Incarnate insurance, right? To be able to deal with Fog Warriors and, random ethereal units and things like that. So I think that would probably be a better bet. Alternatively, though, if you're playing Asphodel, you can just not worry about a bless for your Black Centaurs and worry about a bless for your Black Minotaurs now, right? So, slightly different array of options now that the Asphodel patch has dropped, so that's kind of the whole deal. So, we're not going to talk about the chassis that I put these on, because like I said, they're potentially still very relevant to the game. And I don't want to reveal that, but that'll probably come soon. We're getting close to the point to where I don't think that they'll be relevant to information or the game's information anymore. So probably by the time we hit turn 10 being released, which should put us at turn 45 or 50 or something like that in the actual game, then we'll actually discuss the Pretender design, and I'll go more in depth on exactly what we were trying to do here. But this is the Bless. Performs very admirably, I can tell you immediately. Tested a bit with it, have played quite a bit with it. And even at the point where the game is now with Asphodel, I think you could take this and do well. If you didn't want to take Mending Bones, if you didn't want to take Heroism because you don't like it after the nerf, I would say I'd still take like 2 points of Heroism at least. But you could also add in things like Unsurroundable, which are going to help as well. As I already said, things like Strength or Attack Skill are going to go well. You could add in some resistances if you're particularly worried about a specific matchup, right? Like some Fire Resistance can go a long way, some Cold Resistance can go a long way. way. Cold resistance can go a very long way, especially since you're kind of Asphodel's a decent-ish death nation, so you can mix in units that have natural cold resistance, and you can do things like Grip of Winter and not have to worry about your sacreds as much, etc., etc. So there's a lot of other things you can do, and I would probably suggest taking Mending Bones out and dropping a point or two of heroism to get those other things. But yeah, that's it. Video, of course, went longer than I had originally planned. This should be going live with turn 1. And we should be getting videos every couple days on exactly what's happening in the Asphodel game, in the Slowest Blitz, I believe we're calling it. So, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.